Jasmine had always been a quiet presence at Ridgewood High. She wasn't shy, but she knew how to stay out of the spotlight. She spent most of her time with a few close friends or lost in her books, always trying to stay focused on what truly mattered. Her dark hair, always styled in long braids or curls, framed her face in a way that highlighted her natural beauty, but it was her calm demeanor that made her stand out more than anything. People didn't pay much attention to her unless it was for some trivial reason or when someone needed help with homework. She had learned to cope with being overlooked until today. It was lunchtime, and Jasmine sat at the back of the cafeteria, minding her business, trying to ignore the noise of the chatter around her. A few tables over, a group of boys from the football team were laughing and joking loudly. Jason, the ringleader, stood in the middle of the group, boasting and talking about his latest conquests. Jasmine tried not to pay attention, but she couldn't help but overhear some of their comments about her. She had gotten used to it over the years, being labeled the quiet black girl. It wasn't the worst thing they said, but the subtle remarks always stung. Today, however, something felt different. Jason, who had always been a source of annoyance, had his eyes fixed on her. It wasn't an accusatory glare or an angry stare, but one of amusement. "Hey, Jasmine!" Jason called out, his voice booming across the room. The whole cafeteria fell silent and Jasmine froze. She looked up, meeting his gaze, but she didn't respond. "I've got a fun game for you," Jason continued, moving toward her. His friends followed suit, snickering and glancing at her with that familiar look, like she was something to be used, something to be laughed at. Jasmine's heartbeat quickened, but she held her ground. She wasn't about to let him get under her skin, no matter what he had planned. But before she could process what he was saying, Jason was already standing over her. "Let's see if you can take a little joke." Jason smirked, and without warning, he grabbed a lock of her hair and pulled it. The whole cafeteria gasped, but Jasmine didn't flinch. She just stood up, looking him in the eyes, her hands at her sides, fists clenched but controlled. She wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing her react. Jason's friends burst into laughter, but it was clear from their faces that they hadn't expected Jasmine to remain so calm. They thought she would shrink, become the easy target they were used to seeing. But this time, something was different. Jasmine didn't look scared. She looked determined. But Jason wasn't done yet. He yanked harder on her hair, as if trying to make a point. The crowd surrounding them grew larger, but the sounds of snickering were drowned out by a single, sharp voice. "Let go of her!" someone called from the back of the room. Jasmine recognized the voice immediately. It was Tyrell, her best friend. Tyrell had always been the one to stand up for her, and today was no different. He was one of the few people who had ever truly understood her, and seeing him step up made Jasmine feel a little braver. But Jason didn't back down. Instead, he took his joke one step further. With a sly grin, he grabbed a pair of scissors from his backpack. "Let's see how much you really care about your hair," he sneered, and before Jasmine could react, Jason snipped a large chunk of her hair from the side of her head. The scissors cut through her thick curls with ease, leaving her hair uneven and frayed. The room went quiet for a second, and Jasmine's heart pounded in her chest. She could feel the heat of embarrassment rise to her face, but it wasn't shame she felt. It was anger. Jason had crossed a line. This wasn't just teasing anymore. This was a direct assault on her dignity, on her identity. She wanted to cry out, to shout at him, but something inside of her stopped her. She had been taught to stay calm, to control her emotions. Her father's voice echoed in her head. Don't let them see you sweat. Control your mind and the body will follow. But Jasmine was no longer going to be passive. Her eyes narrowed, her posture shifted, and for the first time, she felt the power in her muscles. She wasn't going to let Jason get away with this. She was done being the quiet girl. Jason's smug grin was wiped from his face the moment he saw the fire in Jasmine's eyes. She wasn't the meek girl he'd expected. She was something more, something dangerous. In one swift motion, Jasmine twisted her body, throwing her arm around Jason's wrist and twisting it behind his back. Jason stumbled back in shock, unable to react fast enough to maintain his hold on her. Before anyone could process what was happening, Jasmine had Jason pinned to the floor with a single, fluid move. She had him on his back, his arm twisted at an awkward angle. The cafeteria had gone completely silent, all eyes on her. Jasmine didn't say a word. She simply held him down, her grip unrelenting. Her breath came in steady, controlled bursts, and for the first time, Jasmine felt the rush of power coursing through her veins. She wasn't just defending herself. She was taking control. Jason struggled beneath her, but Jasmine's training kicked in. Her father had taught her self-defense from an early age, instilling in her the confidence to stand her ground and the skills to back it up. He had always told her, never let anyone put their hands on you. You fight with your mind first and your body will follow. And that was exactly what Jasmine did. The laughter from Jason's friends stopped. The room had become still. They hadn't expected this. They hadn't expected her to fight back, much less overpower Jason with such ease. Jason's face turned a deep shade of red as he squirmed beneath her. But Jasmine didn't let up. She maintained her position, holding him there, teaching him a lesson he would never forget. She wasn't afraid anymore. This was her moment to reclaim what had been taken from her, and she wasn't backing down. The cafeteria was silent, the only sound coming from Jason's labored breathing as he lay on the floor, still pinned beneath Jasmine's firm grasp. The air in the room was thick with tension, no one daring to move or speak. The other students who had once whispered behind her back now stared wide-eyed, unsure of what to do or say. It wasn't just that Jasmine had taken Jason down, it was the fact that she had done it so effortlessly, so calmly, like it was second nature. Jason, who had always been the one to control situations, the one who made people squirm with his cruel jokes and taunts, was now completely helpless. His smirk, the one that had always made Jasmine feel small, had been wiped away in an instant. The bully had become the victim. Jasmine could feel the weight of the moment. Her heart pounded in her chest, but it wasn't out of fear. It was out of a sense of victory. She wasn't just physically overpowering him. She was winning back her dignity, her self-respect, and her strength. This was no longer just about defending herself against Jason. It was about standing up for every time she had been silenced, overlooked, or bullied. She didn't let go of Jason's wrist right away. She could see the fear in his eyes, the realization dawning that he had underestimated her. But as the seconds ticked by, Jasmine slowly eased up, allowing him the space to sit up, though she remained on alert. "Are you done, Jason?" she asked, her voice cool, calm, and steady. The anger from moments ago had simmered down into something far stronger. Control. She wasn't the same girl who had walked into this school a year ago. She was different now, stronger, unshakable, and not afraid to stand her ground. Jason stared up at her, humiliated. For a long moment he didn't speak. Then, through gritted teeth, he muttered, "You're crazy!" He quickly stood up and brushed himself off, glancing at his friends who were still in shock. They didn't know how to respond, too stunned by what they had just witnessed. Jason shot one last glance at Jasmine, his pride clearly bruised. He wanted to say something, anything to assert his dominance, but all that came out was a defeated mutter. "This isn't over." He turned away, his friends following him without another word. As they walked off, Jasmine let out a slow breath, releasing the tension in her body. She wasn't worried about Jason. She had won this fight, not just with him, but with herself. Tyrell, who had been watching from the sidelines, rushed over to her, his face breaking into a wide grin. "You did it, Jazz!" he exclaimed, his voice filled with admiration. He had always known there was more to her than met the eye, but what she had just done was beyond impressive. It was a statement. "I didn't do it for him," Jasmine said quietly, her eyes following Jason's retreating figure. "I did it for me, for every time I let him get away with it." Tyrell nodded, understanding completely. "You showed him, you showed all of them." And Jasmine realized, as she walked away with Tyrell by her side, that this wasn't just about standing up to Jason. It was about taking back control of her narrative, about showing everyone, including herself, that she wasn't afraid to fight for what she deserved. The following days passed by in a blur for Jasmine. The school had shifted around her. The whispers had stopped, but this time they weren't the typical behind-the-back murmurs. They were different. They were filled with respect. Her peers, who had once dismissed her as just another quiet girl, now saw her in a new light. Jasmine wasn't just someone to be overlooked. She was someone to be respected. Jason and his friends had stayed away from her, avoiding eye contact in the halls, and Jasmine couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction every time she passed them by. They didn't dare cross her again. The power dynamic at Ridgewood High had changed. Jasmine wasn't just a student at the school. She had become a symbol of strength, and she wasn't done yet. As the end of the school year approached, Jasmine realized that standing up for herself was only the beginning. She wasn't going to let one moment define her. This was just the start of a new chapter in her life. She had found her voice, and now she was ready to take on the world, armed with the knowledge that her strength, resilience, and determination would guide her every step of the way. And as she walked into the future, her head held high and her heart full of purpose, Jasmine knew that she could face anything life threw at her. She had fought for herself, and in doing so, she had discovered the power that had always been within her. This was her new beginning,